Hello, everyone. It is so very good to see you. And you are here. My name is Mark Dolfini. It's nice to see you. You are here because you want to learn about strategic business growth. And the Strategic Business Growth Multiplier is the class that you have signed up for. If you are joining me for the first time, welcome. If you're joining me for the second time, I question your judgment. No, it's really good to see you. Let me know if you're a first time viewer or if this is if you have seen me before on either on YouTube or if you have been part of one of my other lives before. This is also being broadcast to my YouTube channel, so if you'd like to join me there, you're more than welcome to see that. You'll get that in the replay too. But if you signed up for it on Eventbrite and you are here through that, you will be emailed the link. We are having an issue with our email because Outlook did not like me sending as many emails as I was. And I was like, huh, that's crazy. Why was that? So someone somewhere might have flagged it for spam. I have no idea. Kind of a pain in the neck, but we've got it all. I think we got it figured out. But anyway, it's good to see you. So let me know if you were joining me, where you are from, and what line of work that you're in. So let me know where you're from and what line of work you're in. All right, so we got that up there. And just to let you know again, we're going to get started here in just a hot second. And the reason why I ask this, number one, is to let me know where you're from, because generally I answer questions in my mindset thinking that many people are in the United States, as I am in the United States. I'm in the Midwest. And if you're seeing like, wow, it's in the Midwest and he's wearing a t-shirt, yes, because it's for the first time in like 4 weeks, it's above freezing. So I am, yeah, we're pretty much over this winter. This has been a brutal winter. So but again, perfect example. I got Norin, who joined me from Egypt and is a pharmacy student. Very good, Norin. So the reason I'm asking, again, because I want to make sure that I'm answering questions that are in alignment with kind of where you're at. Now, again, do I know much about Egypt? I do not. But I do want to make sure that if I'm answering a question, that if I'm making the answer specific to the United States, I want to make sure of that. So um, we got OC, and I'm assuming CA is California. So Orange County, California. Very good. Natasha, let me know what line of work that you're in. Would love to. Again, the reason why is because I want to make this very relevant to you, Natasha. So very very good, Nuran. Are you looking to start a business? Is that something you're looking to do after you get on the other side of pharmacy? Let me know. All right, so this is everything that I've got. Just one quick thing because we're going to get started here in just one hot second. But the one thing I want to make sure of is that if you are joining me, I see a bunch of people coming in and joining me now. If you're joining me again for the Strategic Business Growth Multiplier, I want to know again where you're from and also what line of work that you're in, because I want to make this relevant to you. So Noran is saying, let's see, yeah, I'm starting out my consulting company. Excellent. And in cosmetics. Fantastic. Very good. And specifically as a business strategist. Very good. Excellent. That's exactly what it is that I do as a strategist. So I help people who want to grow and scale their businesses. Growing and scaling are not the same thing. But before we get too far in the weeds on this, I just want to talk to you about a couple different things. Number one, if you are looking to try to grow a business, I want you to know right out of the gate that not every business is scalable and not every business should be scaled. The reason, and the other side of this, which people just won't seem to tell you, and I don't know why this is, but I see so many social influencers out there, and I don't know if you are on Facebook or Instagram, and you see this, there's like all these people talking about scaling your business. If you're at 1 million or trying to get to 10 million, or you're at 10 million trying to get to 100 million. Look, I'm telling you this. I'm going to tell you something that they're not going to tell you, because once they get your money, they don't care. I'm going to tell you this for free. Not all businesses are scalable. Number one. And number two, you cannot scale a broken business model. And they're not going to tell you that because they want to get your money. I'm going to tell you that for free. So I'm going to give you a quick example. I had, let's see. Okay, sorry, I'm getting an error message. So one of the things that I'm noticing is that again, the reason I'm telling you this is you can't scale a broken business model and not all businesses are scalable. I was crawling out of this smoking hole back in 2009 when the economy had completely fallen apart. And it was interesting because the economy was a mess. my property, I was in the property management world, and most of my rental properties, I turned this $6.5 million portfolio into $1.5 million in like 8 months. So for my next trick, right, I was going the wrong way. So anyway, I lost all this money and I had no money coming in. Well, the one thing that I learned how to do, and again, I could go get work, but again, even then, no one was really hiring. But one of the things I could do, because people were staying at home and they weren't able to sell their properties, they did still need maintenance done on their houses. Fortunately, I have a skill set where I know how to fix stuff, right? I'm not much of a carpenter, but I can fix electrical, plumbing, siding, appliances, things like that. I could fix stuff. I could fix things. And because people didn't have any money, they didn't want to buy new appliances and new stuff. They didn't want to go buy new houses because they didn't have the cash to do it. So that's what I did. I went out and I fixed stuff. And the thing was, I went from making $0 a day to making somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 a day. Now, that might sound like, wow, that sounds like a lot. It was, and it was great. But the problem was I owed like $5 million. I was literally $5 million in the hole for all these people who had, who I owed money to. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I had joined, again, for those of you who are just joining, let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. But the reason why I'm telling you this, so I was making like roughly between $1,000 and $1,500 a day in revenues. I was probably keeping well more than half of that. Like it was all labor for me, right? So I was working basically from 8 in the morning to about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And that was every day, Sunday through Sunday. So it was not sustainable. But the thing was, I was making that kind of money, but that business was not scalable. It was a great business. It was a handyman business, but it was not scalable because anybody that I was bringing in to this handyman business, well, they could go do the same thing and undercut me. And that's exactly what happened. So even though I was doing this and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to perpetuate this for long, it didn't, just because it wasn't scalable doesn't mean that it wasn't worth doing. It absolutely was worth doing. In fact, if I ever get into a financial pickle again, that's probably something I would lean back on because I'm still pretty handy. I can still fix a lot of things. I know how to fix stuff. Okay. Except front load washers and dryers. I absolutely hate working on those. But other than that, there really is a lot of things that I can do. So on the other side of that year, I had amassed quite a little bit of money, which allowed me a toehold to get moving on to something different. And I started my property management business. So I was able to manage all these properties that people couldn't sell. And it really took me in a different direction. And fortunately, I did not have to declare bankruptcy, although I probably, looking back, had I declared bankruptcy, I probably would have been out of my situation significantly faster, but I was just opposed to it. I was like, no, I borrowed the money, I'm going to pay it back. And I did. Everybody who got in line got something. And that's exactly what it worked out. So it took me a while to fill in that hole, but I'm just telling you now, like, if you're looking to grow or scale your business, it's important to just say like, hey, look, just because the business that you're in, and it may not be growing, it may not be one that can grow or scale because it's a broken model, or because it would be incredibly difficult. Like you feel like you're always training your competition, like might be in the cleaning business or handyman business or something like that. Just understand that just because it may be making a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean it's not worth doing. All right, so let's get to it. So again, for those of you who have joined me, let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in, so I can make this relevant to you. So you are in the Strategic Business Growth Multiplier. I'm just going to ask you one quick thing. I've got this scheduled for a little bit over an hour from now, so probably about quarter after. We're going to be completely wrapped up. But here's the thing. Again, if you signed up for this through Eventbrite, we'll be sending this once we get the email figured out. We'll be sending that through to you, the replay. Otherwise, it'll also be linked. It'll also be set up on in YouTube if you'd like to go there and follow me there. So here's one quick thing. I just want to ask you, please don't multitask. I know it's really super hard not to multitask when you're on your phones or when you're on your computers. But here's the thing. I want you to train your brain. This is the time. This is your CEO time. This is where you're actually learning how to do this business. And when you're running all around and being multitasking and not being focused, you're not doing yourself any favors. I literally got off a call with a young man who's 25 years old who is really shaking it up and shaking the bushes. He's literally like the 25-year-old version of me. I'm 53. And I look back at this young man, I'm like, wow, I give him a ton of credit for reaching out to someone for help. I wouldn't have done that at 25. And that held me back. But the thing was, And the reason I say he was the 25-year-old version of me is because he's doing a lot of the same things that I was doing that really got me into trouble. And I was jumping from business to business to business. I had 4 or 5 different things going on. And because I wasn't focused in one specific area, I wasn't really making all that much traction in any one area. I was kind of just vibrating back and forth rather than making real headway in one specific direction. So that is what I would suggest for you. Please don't multitask. Train your brain to stay plugged in. While we're doing this. Okay, so Michelle from Minneapolis, Minnesota, a new nonprofit consultant. Michelle, it is so good to have you here, and I'm glad. I hope things settle down in Minneapolis soon. And my prayers have been. I have several very good friends up that way, and just hope things settle down. All right, so let's get to what the premise of this is about. It's a strategic approach to managing your life and your business, and this is not going to be super granular. You have to understand I'm a strategist and not so much a tactician. Do I know certain tactics of certain things? Absolutely, I have to, right? I can't just be all about strategy. It has to be, but what I'm talking about first and foremost is about strategy versus specific tactics. Tactics are about the individual granular little things, right? But the strategy, the overall strategy is so much more important because the tactics are only relevant to the strategy, right? So I want you to think about this. As we go through this, this is going to be a top-down systems approach. We're going to be talking about systems and processes. So when you're thinking about this, hang on one second. I have a question. I don't even know how to have the first step. Well, Naran, you're on the right spot. Just wait. I'm going to give you the first couple of steps, but we are going to be taking a top-down approach. And that's what's important, Naran. So as you're thinking like, hey, I don't even know what questions to ask, that's a good question. And you're going to be coming up with more questions. But here's the thing. As you get started, we are going to be looking at this from the top down. So who is this for? Now, Naran, I don't want you running off and saying this isn't for me. Just hang tight. This is designed for established business owners with employees. If you don't have employees, that's fine. If you're not established, that's fine. But I want you to understand it could be entrepreneurs who don't even have a business yet, but they know that they're going to be bringing others on board. This is what it's not for. This is not for the solopreneur or the one-man army who wants to stay that way. Listen, I love my one-man army brothers and sisters out there. I was a one-man army guy for years. I was a Marine, but I was a one-man shop for years, and I wanted to stay that way. I did not want to bring in anybody else. And no disrespect if that's you, but if you're talking about growing or even potentially scaling your business, growing and scaling are actually two different things. But if you're looking at either growing or scaling your business, to do that quickly, you're going to need to bring other people on board. And I will tell you, I fought this for years. And I was bottlenecked when I tried to do everything myself. And it's not that you can't do everything, but the reality is you can only do one thing at a time. And when you're trying to multitask, have about the same effectiveness as someone who's stoned. The researchers out of the University of London did a study of people who said, hey, who are my good multitaskers out there? And they're like, oh, I'm really good at multitasking. Great. And they put people in a room, they had them do very multitasking sort of things. And they had other people who were stoned out of their mind and they were doing the same types of things and they had the same level of effectiveness. So I'm just saying, even if you think you're great at it, you're like the drunk guy at the party. Your jokes are not that funny, okay? So I'm just saying, when you have others in your organization, you can get multiple things done at a time, all right? So that's what I'm saying. You have to have others, especially if you're wanting to grow or scale, but bringing others into your business is what has a scaling effect on your business, okay? So we're going to get into this, but here's the thing. Let's see here. We got more people. Orange County, California, independent insurance agent specializing in employee benefits and financial services. Perfect. Well, Geraldine, it is good to see you. All right. I feel like there was someone else who was from Orange County, California. Oh, Natasha. Natasha was from Orange County, California. Okay. Well, it's good to see you both. Thank you. All right. So here's the thing I want you to, before we get into the agenda, I know many people come to these and they're like, well, yeah, I took so many notes. There's a difference between seeking knowledge just to kind of gain an understanding versus seeking knowledge to actually do something with, to take action. So I'm going to ask at the very end, what are the 1 or 2 things that you're really going to take action on? And again, like these are the sorts of things that I want you to be thinking about now, because I'm going to ask you this at the end. I don't want to hear like, okay, fine, you can say it. Yeah, it was great. Okay, great. But what are you going to take action on? I don't need the applause from me anymore. Like at this point, I've done so many of these webinars and seminars and speakers from stage and everything else. But what are you going to take action on? How is your life going to be different? That's the main thing that's important to me right now. So, Natasha is giving a high five wave to you, Geraldine. So, hey neighbor. All right. So let's get to the agenda. The agenda, first and foremost, we're going to be talking about systems in your business. We're going to talk about systems first, and then we're going to be talking about psychology. So we're talking about systems and psychology. It's the S&P approach to business, and you need both legs, systems and psychology. Both are incredibly relevant. Then we're going to be talking about the 4 core functions of business, which are needed for every single business. Then we're going to be talking about the scaling and set to grow and what that would look like. And then I'm going to give you some resources here at the end. So as we talk about the business approach, give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry. And again, we've got a bunch of people that just joined. If you are joining, say hello. And sorry, there we go. All right, so let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. All right, so let's talk about, we talked about the systems and psychology. First, where you're going to start off with systems. So the systems approach is everything that I wrote about in this book over my shoulder or the book on the screens, the same one, The Time Wealthy Advantage. I just published that in May of last year. And if you are in the US and you'd like a copy that would be signed, just go to strategicboardroom.com. It is literally on the front page. You cannot miss it. And there's also some bonuses there. If you are outside the US, I know Naran is joining us from Egypt. Your best bet is to get it from Amazon. So it's published on Amazon. I have license to publish it pretty much worldwide. If you'd like to buy it, that's probably going to be your best bet, is to buy it direct from Amazon. So let's see here. We've got Caroline. Caroline from Kenya, social entrepreneur and founder of Glory Empowerment Through Craft. Very good. Excellent. Well, it's good to have you here, Caroline. Okay. And we've got Ella. Hello. Hello, Ella. Nice to see you. Ella Bella. Okay. So let's get to it. So again, I'm not here to promote the book or push the book. I just want to make sure that you guys knew that everything I'm going to be talking about in terms of this Viper framework that's going to be next. For those of you who want to get a little bit deeper on it, that's where you can get that resource. Okay, so let's talk about the Viper framework. The Viper method is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. Remember what I talked about earlier on? This is a top-down approach to how to set up and manage your life and your business. So I'm going to take a hot second here. Yes, this is a business-oriented webinar. I just want to make a quick 3-minute plea for you to pay attention to one other aspect of your life, and that is your life. So when you're looking at vision, vision has 2 components. It has personal vision and it has business vision. Your personal vision is, what would your life look like if it wasn't defined by income generation, right? If your job description wasn't also a life description, right? You ever gone to like someone's backyard barbecue and you don't really know a lot of people, are like, oh, so what do you do, right? And all of a sudden it's like, I'm an accountant, I'm an insurance person, I'm in real estate, right? How somehow your job description becomes a life description. And this is where I want you to start to think about this. Like if you were wake up tomorrow with $30 million or 30 million pounds or 30 million euro or 30 million whatever is a lot of money in your bank account tomorrow, what would your life look like from day to day, right? Not so much money that way you never, ever, ever have to worry about income generation, but you do have to be a good steward of money, right? I can tell you that $30 million might sound like a lot of money, or might it sound like a lot of money to me at one point in time in my life. But I will tell you this, I would still have to be a very good steward of that money, or I might outlast my money, and that wouldn't be a good feeling, right? So the personal vision is going to ask you a primary question. Where do you want to go? Caroline, where do you want to go? Ella, where do you want to go? What do you want your life to look like? Naran, what do you want your life to look like? Geraldine, Michelle, what do you want your life to look like if it wasn't defined by income generation? Yes, you might still want to be productive and you might still want to work. I would still absolutely work if I woke up with, $100 million or $200 million in my bank account tomorrow. Okay. The thing is, because I absolutely love what I do, I get substantial amounts of income that come in from my real estate portfolio. I get some money that comes in from what I do here as a strategist. But the thing is, I absolutely love doing this. And would I still be doing this? Yeah, I would still be doing this. I really enjoy coaching. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy writing books. I enjoy helping people get to the other side of their financial journey and their business journey. Okay. So that's the personal vision. Where do you want to go? What would your relationships look like if it wasn't, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your children, relationship with your brothers or sisters, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your faith, right? What would you want that to look like? Okay. Your business vision, once that's defined, your business vision is now like, okay, cool. Now that that's defined, cool. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? So when you think about this, and this is where, again, I'm just going to take another couple of seconds here for just real quick. But again, I have sat in so many seminars and and masterminds sitting next to people who were legitimately knocking it down. I mean, they were making, 6 and 7 figures per month net. And you know what they were worried about? They were worried about making that next comma in their bank account. Meanwhile, their home life is a complete disaster. That's what they were worried about, because what they had done is they created a business vision without ever giving any thought to personal vision. And the danger in creating a business vision before you create a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And that's what I really want to encourage you to avoid. So just this last little piece on personal vision, and then we're going to get to the rest of it here today. But personal vision, here's one thing I really like to suggest to folks, is think about your 100th birthday speech. Let's pretend that you're turning 100 years old, okay? And I just want you to think about it. You're turning 100 years old. Who would you want to be there? Who would you want to be in the room? What would you say? There you are. You're stepping onto the little, dais or the little stage, and you're saying, "Okay, hey everyone, thanks so much." What would you say? What would you want others to say to you when you were done speaking? And what would be the message that you'd like them to carry outside the room to others when you were done speaking? What would be that legacy message? Right? So think about that. And if you turning 100 is too far removed from where you're at, think about it this way. Think about what your next milestone, right? Maybe you're 22 now. Okay, well, how about when I'm 30? Or maybe at my high school reunion. Or maybe you're in your 30s now and you've got some kids. You're like, hey, when my kids graduate high school, this is what I want, right? So whatever that milestone is for you, think about it from that perspective. All right, so that's personal vision. We'll put the fries in the bag on that. Now let's get to business vision. When you're thinking about business vision, I want you to think about 3 C's. And for those of you who are starting businesses, even if you have been in business for a while, anytime I get hired as a strategist and I get invited into the room, these are the 3 things that I'm looking for. And I can tell you, anytime I'm in a dysfunctional business, these 3 C's are somewhere in there is the problem. Usually it's among all 3 because they're not well defined. The 3 C's of business vision are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, client avatar. Let's unpack core purpose. Core purpose is going to ask you a very simple question. What business are you in, and what problems do you solve? And it's really important that you be highly specific in your answers. So when you're thinking about this, what business that you're in, again, this is a top-down approach that we're taking to your business. I can give you all this granular stuff, and none of it's going to matter if you don't have this defined. Because if your core purpose is very fragmented, well, guess what's going to happen? And I see this a lot with small business entrepreneurs who have all these different business ideas, and they're trying to implement all these different business ideas, kind of like the young man that I was talking to earlier. And this was, again, the 28-year-old version of me was doing the same exact thing. I was in all these different businesses, and people were very confused. Heck, I was very confused at actually what business that I was in. What business was I in, and what problems do I solve? There was a guy who, I'm going to change his name, but we're going to call him Real Estate Ralphie. Real Estate Ralphie was someone who was really deeply well known in real estate. And he had a great brand. He owned the color yellow. And Real Estate Ralphie was, he had a very powerful brand. Everyone knew him. And he was known, I think he did wholesaling. So he was basically picking up other people's properties and he would sell them to other investors for a profit. And he had a great little business. And the interesting thing was that Real Estate Ralphie was known for this. Now, he had a lot of little videos that would pop up. And this was the interesting thing. One day, Real Estate Ralphie posted a video trying to sell like a $10 bag of mushroom coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, what are you doing? In one video, he almost wrecked his brand. And I was like, what are you doing? All of a sudden, real estate Ralphie became like mushroom coffee Ralphie. Like, really? Like, dude, are you going to make so much money on that one bag of coffee that you're going to wreck your brand? And I see this happen over and over and over again when someone's in the real estate business and then all of a sudden they slip into my DMs trying to sell me essential oils. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's way too fragmented. So you got to get really dialed in on the purpose of your business and not get too scattered about that. And here's what I'm saying. Like, you may have multiple things that you do for a specific avatar. We're going to talk about avatar here in a second. Then that's fine, but you have to be in alignment in that core purpose. So again, what business are you in and what problems do you solve? And it's important that you be very specific. What specific business you're in and what specific problems do you solve? Let's get to core values. Core values is what matters to you about this business. And what matters to you about this business, and specifically, how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? Again, I see a bunch of people joining me right now. Let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. Be happy to have you here. So really good to see you. We talked about core purpose, and again, we're taking a strategic approach to understanding and creating and crafting your business. We talked about core purpose. Now, core values is what helps define the DNA of your company. And you're like, oh, geez, here's all this squishy stuff. Before you tune out, just hear me. The most important thing to a company after it starts to grow is its company culture. And if you have ever worked in a company that's had a toxic culture, you know what I'm talking about. It is awful. No one wants to go there, and the people that do want to go there, they only end up keeping the worst of the worst. All the good people leave. So if you're telling me that company culture doesn't really matter that much, you probably haven't worked in one toxic enough. Okay? I'm telling you that company culture is so important, and it's defined by your well-defined core values. And company culture and company brand are inextricably linked. Company culture is what's experienced by the people who work there. Company brand is what's experienced by the people who shop there. Does that make sense? And that is all stemmed from your core values. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I define my core values? Well, your core values are going to be defined by you. Your business is just an extension of you. Does that make sense? Your business is just an extension of you. So when you're thinking about, well, what is it that I value? Well, I value peanut M&Ms, right? I value peanut M&Ms. Am I going to go to war over peanut M&Ms? No. Someone breaks in my house and says, give me your peanut M&Ms. I'm like, okay, take my peanut M&Ms, right? Someone breaks in my house and threatens my family. They're in for a bad day, okay? Because that is a core value of mine. I might value peanut M&Ms, but I don't value them so much I'm willing to get up off the couch. But if someone threatens my family, that is a core value. Yes, I'm going to get up off the couch and I'm going to defend my family. So that's the standard. The value becomes a core value when you're willing to take action on something. That's how you know it's a core value. So think about this. Have you ever had a friend? Have you ever have a friend, Caroline or Natasha, who wandered off the reservation that you weren't willing to follow them? Like they were heading down a path that you couldn't follow, right? They had that friend that wandered off the reservation. Yeah, you can't. We've all had those friends, sometimes romantic interests, where you're like, I'm sorry, man, you're heading down a path I can't follow, right? And if that person, that's why my bride and I, we have such a wonderful relationship because we align in our core values. And unfortunately, we've had to mutually agree that friends of ours were heading down a path that we weren't willing to follow, and we had to let them go as friends. So you think about that in your excesses. Think about that in your excessively good, the breakups and the things like, hey, I had to let go that friend go because it was a violation of a core value, or something that was really amazing in your life that was in alignment with a core value, something if you could relive it, you would. Okay. So that's how you determine your core values for your company. Think about those bad bosses that may have violated a core value for you. That is how you start to think about these things. All right. So I got some other people who are joining me. Amit, I'm in shipping business. I think it's great business in the future as the world trade gets better. Yeah, we're supposed to be, I think we're projected to be at 10 billion people by 2100. So Yeah, I would agree. This is becoming a smaller world. And I'm from India. Very good. Good to have you here. All right. So, so again, we talked about core purpose, we talked about core values. Now let's talk about client avatar. Now, client avatar, these are the people who specifically and ideally you want to serve, who, by the way, probably also align with your core values. Have you ever had a customer with you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get rid of this person because they're not in alignment with your core values? Yeah, that's why I interview anyone who ever wants to work with me as a strategist. There's no way for you to sign up on any website to buy my services as a strategist. You know why? Because I don't know their core values. And if they're telling me that they want to do business in a certain way and it doesn't align with who I am, I'm sorry. There's no amount of money that I'm going to cash in my core values for that. I just won't. I've been down that road before and it sucks. So I'm just saying, who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? And I want you to think about them from a geographic perspective, a demographic perspective, and a psychographic perspective. Geographic perspective is, again, where they are. Geographics is where they are. Demographics is who they are. Psychographics is how psycho they are. No, I'm just kidding. Psychographics is how they think and how they buy. So where are they, who are they, and how they think and how they buy. So when you're thinking about psychographics, I want you to think of the phrase ALIA, A-L-I-A. I want you to think of their attitudes. I want you to think of their lifestyles. I want you to think of their interests and their aspirations and goals. Remember, these are the people you're going to be targeting. These are the people you most want to work with. And it's really important that you know their attitudes on things. Wouldn't it be nice if they kind of thought a little like you? Maybe not exactly, but that they have the same attitude to you towards maybe education, that they have the same attitude as you as maybe politics, right? I tend to lean a little right in my politics. Right now is just so hard. It's just like even hard to admit at this point, but I mean, I'm definitely not left of center. I'm probably a little bit more right of center than most, but I'm not hard right. Most people who look at me, you think of it like, oh, he's hard right, but I'm not. I'm just a little bit more right of center. So most of the people who I tend to attract tend to be more right of center, but I work with people who are a little bit left of center. Far left and far right tend to not want to stick around with me. Okay. And that's fine. Okay. That's totally fine. I'd rather be, I'm just a couple people shot of whiskey than everyone's cup of tea. That is okay with me. That is because in your marketing, you want to be a little polarizing, and magnets are polarizing. Magnets attract, but they also repel. And that's what I want to be. I want to repel the people who don't want to be around me, but I want to attract the people that do. So that's why it's important for you to understand their attitudes. It's important to understand people's lifestyles. Are they young and jet setting and, always traveling, or are they young and kind of homebodies, right? Are they older and they're grandparent type and they want to spend a lot of time with their grandkids? Or are they older and all their grandkids have gone on to college and doing their own lives and they want to travel? Okay, great. Like, what's their lifestyle? Are they, what are their interests? Are they interested in American football? Are they interested in European football? Are they interested in NASCAR? Are they interested in Formula One? Right? These are the sorts of things that's important so you can, again, understand their interests and also their aspirations. Understanding their aspirations and their goals, especially where they're trying to go in life, this is really important because, again, you can necessarily, in terms of your product or service, help them reach their goals. So these are all really important things. These are all really important things as you're starting to consider this stuff. Geraldine. Same as choosing a spouse. Oh, you're talking about core values? Yeah, same thing. It's the same thing. And core values and client avatar, it's actually probably pretty similar too. Yeah, you're probably right, Geraldine. All right, so these are all very important things. So again, these 3 C's, the core purpose, core values, and client avatar, if you have not taken time to write these things down and get very clear about where you're at in terms of your core purpose, your core values, and your client avatar, you're going to have to spend some time to work on this, because I'll tell you, anytime, like I said, I go into a company and I start looking at their core purpose, I start looking at their core values or their client avatar or who they're trying to attract and who they're trying to attract as workers, I almost always see holes somewhere in here. So for you guys, let me know in the comments, where do you think you have something really dialed in? Which one of these is really dialed in? You're like, yep, I'm really good on this. I have it written down. I know exactly what this is. And which one of these do you think you have to do a little bit of work on? And I'm telling you, I'm like from a 1 to a 10, I don't think you can be above a 5 if it's not written down. That's just my opinion. So they really need to be written down. So go ahead and type in the comments what your thoughts are. And that is going to be, which of these do you have really, really dialed in? Like an 8, 9, or 10? And then which of these do you feel like you have to do some work on? So you type that in there. We're going to keep rolling. All right. So that is, we're going to put the fries in the bag on vision. Again, this is, we talked about personal vision and business vision, and we're going to move on. So from here, we're talking about systems. Again, we're talking about a top-down approach to creating this business that you can grow and then apparently later on potentially scale. This is where you're going to be looking at infrastructure. So infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's all the gears and all the back end stuff. Like just think of the bones of the business, like the desks, the chairs, the software, the computer systems, the phone systems, your websites, your payment processing, your check scanners, all those sorts of things. This is a very critical component to your business because many people don't think of infrastructure until after the fact. They think about all the work that needs to get done, but they don't think of the infrastructure that could really save a ton of time, and they've already spent all their money on other things not related to infrastructure. So I'm just telling you that infrastructure is a really important component. And you might think, well, if it's so important, why doesn't it become before vision? The reason being, let's say for argument's sake, you got, let's say you got Caroline. Okay, Caroline, you want to, let's say it's Caroline's personal vision to lay on the beach in Spain for 2 months out of the year, rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Okay, it's a fine vision. If she creates an infrastructure it's going to require her to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for her when she's trying to lay on the beach for 2 months out of the year trying to rub cocoa butter on her belly. Okay? So again, you're going to build an infrastructure that's in alignment with that vision, right? And then you're going to, and that's the whole purpose of this, right? So you're going to do that first, and you want to, that all stays in alignment with your vision for the future. So we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Now let's talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff, right? Now, there's 2 components to process. Process has a tactical component and it has a strategic component. Let's talk about tactical first. Tactical is just basically how you do stuff. It's your standard operating procedures. It's your checklist items. It's how you do stuff from day to day. So you might be thinking, well, if this is the case, you might be thinking, well, like it could be your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you prepare bank deposits, how you answer the phone, all sorts of stuff like that. Okay? If I was to take a box and draw around infrastructure and the tactical part of process, that is your system. That's your system. So again, if you're looking at this from a systemic perspective and you're thinking, okay, well, this is your battleship. This is your warship that you just built. Now it's sitting in the harbor. Well, you don't want it just sitting in the harbor. You want to take it out of the harbor and go do something with it, right? You don't want to just leave it in the harbor and let that boat get battered up against the dock against whatever economic winds happen to be blowing through at any given time, right? No, you want to take it out of the bay and go make some trouble. That's where strategy comes in. So again, you've got tactical. Now let's talk about strategic. Strategic is literally, we're going to take this, what direction are we going to drive this boat in? When you're looking at strategic planning, I want you to think of 3 Ps. 3 Ps of strategic planning. Those are the people, the purpose, and promotion. People, purpose, promotion. You really need to be considering all 3 of these things. So now that you've got this system built, you're going to be needing to think about, okay, cool. So now the people are, who are you going to be going after? That could be like, you might be attracting a new client, right? You might be thinking, well, I need additional vendors. I need additional suppliers. I may need marketing professionals because I don't know what I'm doing in marketing. But there's going to be the people that you're going to need, the people component, not just the people that you're targeting with your marketing, but also the people that you're going to need for expansive activities. Is this making sense? So you have to consider the people component in your strategic planning, especially if you're trying to grow, and it's absolutely critical if you're trying to scale. So that's the people component of strategic planning. When you're looking at purpose, this is where you also have to be in alignment with your core purpose, right? People, when you're talking about people, especially if you're attracting an avatar, that should be in alignment with your avatar. They should also be in alignment with your core values. But the purpose should also be in alignment with your core purpose, because a lot of times, let's say that you're in business and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, we're going to start doing this other thing, and it has nothing to do with the core purpose of your business. That would be as if like Starbucks coffee started selling chainsaws. It doesn't make any sense. Yet I see this happen over and over and over again, where businesses start to wander and they start to offer different things, and they're out of sync with their core purpose. So your strategic purpose has to be in alignment with your core purpose. So what's the purpose could be? It could be to expand market share. It could be to launch a new product or service that's in alignment with your core purpose. It could be to vertically integrate into a market, right? To upline on something, right? Whatever it is, this is where you're starting to think about your core purpose and your strategic purpose, right? So this is where you're planning. What's the purpose of the strategic plan? Finally is promotion. Promotion is where you're just communicating often and you're saying, okay, look, I need to tell the people outside my organization, but I also need to repeat it to the people inside my organization. So when you're thinking about these things over and over and over again, communication, it really isn't about just communication. Otherwise, I would have called it communication. Communication is just saying something and not saying it again. Promoting is saying something and saying it again and again and again and promoting that level of communication over and over. So that is, when you're looking at strategic planning, you have to have all three of these P's so you can affect a strategic plan and take that boat out of the harbor. So that's tactical, that's strategic. Now, let's talk about execution. Execution, this is one of my favorite quotes from General Patton. A good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week. And that's so true. And the reason why I put this up here, and the reason why execution has its own spot in the Viper framework, is because most plans fall apart in their execution. And this is because, and again, as much as I love you guys as my fellow business owners and fellow entrepreneurs, you have these like to-do lists of like 71 items that you're going to do today. Ask me how I know. If I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up, right? Because that was me. And the problem with that was I had way too many priorities. And the problem with that is having too many priorities has the same impact as having none. Let me say that again. Having too many priorities has the same impact as having none. So this is why I reference something called a daily 5. My daily 5 is up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take that are going to move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan, either one. And I'm talking about 5 highly specific actions. This right here, this webinar, this is one of my daily 5. And for me, actually, 3 is a better number. If I'm doing 5 every day, I just came out on the other side of a very, very busy 90 days for me. I had a 90-day challenge that I was doing with people inside my tribe. I came out on the other side of that. I'm actually a student right now in a PhD program for organizational psychology. We just finished up our last class yesterday, and I am like, I'm literally like just so happy to be done with it. And unfortunately, I had so many daily 5 activities that I didn't have a lot of bandwidth left over. So for me, a daily 3 is something that I can really do. And now that I've got a little bit of a break, I'm going to be working on my book a little bit. I've got some other things I'm trying to get done for this year, but a daily 3 is something good. So I'm just saying it's up to 5 highly specific actions that are needle moving activities, not like check email, not like check voicemail. That's not specific enough. I want to be needle moving activities, and generally they're going to be marketing oriented. So that's execution. Reporting is the last piece of the Viper framework, and reporting is made up of 2 components: lead metrics and lag metrics. Your lead metrics are based on your actions and your activities. That's it. Your actions and activities. They precede the results. The results are the lag metrics. So again, that might be the number of sales you got, the number of people who actually attended your webinar, the number of people who actually clicked like on your photo, right? You don't have any control over lag metrics, but you do have direct control over your actions and activities. Make sense? So I want to track, of course I want to track some lead metrics, but I absolutely want to track my lead metrics, right? My lag metrics, I don't have any control over. Okay. So I absolutely want to track my lag metrics. But I said that wrong. But I also absolutely critically that I track and monitor my lead metrics, my actions and activities. If I don't have the results that I want, I only have to look at my actions and activities. It makes it simple. So that is the R of the reporting of the Viper framework. So that is the system. That's the entire system right there. Now let's talk about the psychology. Systems are important, but systems are only going to get you so far. So as you're looking at systems, systems are important for stability, they're important for consistency, and they're absolutely important for accountability. That's the whole point of a system is. They're stable. They do the same thing over and over and over. It's that printing press. It's that consistency that's your product. And that is what people are looking for in a system. However, systems are limited. Making subjective decisions are really not the whole purpose of a system. And adapting to market changes, especially rapid market changes, are tricky for systems, or coming up with creative solutions, or starting and maintaining or developing human connections. Yeah, I'm not talking about automations. I'm not talking about AI. I'm not talking about answering questions. I'm talking about a true connection. Oh, you're from California. I'm from California, right? Geraldine and Natasha, right, are both from Orange County, California. So like these are the sorts of things like they can establish and maintain a connection, right? That's what's important. So in one of my sessions called Marketing Magic, I talk about the affinity of someone being close, where either through geographics or shared experiences, they have affinity. So that person may be more interested in you and in your marketing because there's some affinity there. Okay. So again, that's what our system is falls short. That's why the psychology is so important. So let's look at psychology. So when you're looking at psychology, there's two components to psychology. When you're looking at psychology, there's personal and individual psychology, and then you've got business and organizational psychology. Okay. So when you're looking at personal, you're looking at things like self-worth, self-management, limiting beliefs, emotional intelligence, things like that. It's our own personal head trash and stuff that we carry around and just we have to work through. When you're looking at business and organizational psychology, you're looking at things from an external perspective and an internal perspective. So let's look at business psychology. Again, external and internal. The external things you're looking at are like buying psychology, understanding buyers and why they do the things they do. Oh, those buyers, why do they do the things they do? And again, that's something I talk about. I'm not going to be getting into that today. That's something I talk about in my one-to-one sales presentation and also Marketing Magic. But like understanding buying psychology, vendor psychology, understanding negotiations, and even things like external politics. Those are all things that are really important for external influences. And I'm not talking about office politics. I'm talking about external politics, like just the external politics that do play a role in what goes on at your local county, your state, your cities, like things like that. When you're looking at internal business psychology, you're looking at things like management and leadership. I'm going to talk really quickly about the 3 pillars model of leadership. This is so foundational, and this is so important because this really impacts how your business is going to be perceived again by your people who work in that organization. And to be effective, the 3 pillars model of leadership, and this is really something I'm referring to as strategic leadership, is trust, vision, and communication. Trust, vision, and communication. Look, here's the thing. You have to have all 3 of these components. If you have a great vision for your company and you're an amazing communicator, but people don't trust you, they're not going to follow you. You are not going to be an effective leader. Let's say that people trust you and you're a great communicator, but you don't have a real shared vision, like, oh yeah, like where you're bringing people and enrolling them into this vision, or you don't have a vision at all, they're not going to follow you. You're not going to be an effective leader. You also, let's say you have their trust and you have an amazing vision there where you brought them in and they've had some collaboration with you on that, but you're a horrible communicator and you're not effectively communicating. You type in all caps or you don't do it often enough. Again, people are not going to follow you. You're not going to be an effective leader. So these three things, all of these, trust, vision, and communication, all three of these things must be present for you to be an effective strategic leader. So you might be thinking, okay, this is great, but does leadership really matter that much? I mean, is it really a big important? Yes. If you are trying remember the premise of why we're here. If you're trying to grow and you're trying to scale, yes, this is going to be an important consideration. So you might be thinking, okay, well, why leadership? My next book is called The Time Wealthy Leader Boss. And the Leader Boss premise is about understanding the difference between caring and candor. A caring boss is someone who really cares about their people, but they're kind of afraid of like not telling them the things that they need to hear. A candor boss, someone who just tells them the way it is and doesn't really care about their feelings, look, they're not going to be an effective boss either. Because the caring boss, people are going to walk all over that caring boss. And the people who have candor, too much candor, they're going to say like, man, I'm just going to show up, do my job, and leave. Don't ask me to do one more thing. Okay. So that's the problem, is that it takes a blend of both. And it takes, I would say, equal parts of both caring and candor to be an effective leader boss. If you're looking at something called a level 5 leader company, and this is something where, Asteria is saying, Asteri, LLC, home care agency in Washington. Hello. It's good to see you. Glad you could be here. So a level 5 leader company is something that John Maxwell talks about. He talks about level 5 leaders, the pinnacle leader. Jim Collins talks about level 5 leaders as the leaders who are very company facing, and they put the company ahead of them and their ego. But however you look at, these are very effective leaders. And these companies are significantly more profitable. They grew significantly faster than their counterparts. They had a stronger company culture. And guess what else they had? Because they had a strong company culture. And it's one of the 3 C's. That's right. They had defined company core values. They had defined core values. Oh my gosh, it keeps coming up like a bad penny. Right? So I'm just telling you, these are the sorts of things that come back up and around. And I'm just going to give you a quick example. And I took this chart out of the company, or out of the book, Great by Choice by Jim Collins and Morton Hansen. These are 4 companies that were tracked over the course of 30 years. Look at these returns. 24 times more than the market for Amgen, 77 more times for their industry. Southwest Airlines, again, how would you like to put $1,000 down or $10,000 down on Southwest Airlines compared to the overall market over that 30 years? Yeah, 63 time return. I'm not talking about 63%, 63 times. I'm talking about a multiple, okay? This is why you also have to reference that the 100 best places to work, those lists frequently represent the highest stock returns. In fact, whenever I'm screening companies to invest in, that's one of the lists that I look at first, because leadership makes a huge difference. And the truth is this: growth requires change, and leadership is what manages that change. So if you're asking your questions like, how do I get my people to care as much as I do? Or I feel like I should be much further along in my business. The truth is this: it could be your leadership. And the reality is this: here's the truth. The speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The team cannot go faster than the leader. So if you're someone who takes forever to make decisions, or you're someone that just does not move very quickly, you might need to put someone else in a leadership role, or you need to adjust how you lead. Because again, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to scale, but you take forever to make decisions, you're either going to have to change that, or you're going to have to find someone else to make decisions for you, so you can get out of the way. And sometimes that's what's necessary, right? So, by the way, if I haven't mentioned this, I see a few more people have just joined. Let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. And also, if you've got questions along the way, guys and gals, go ahead and type them in. I have some natural breakpoints, and that way I can read these and also get a sip of my delicious beverage here. All right. Sorry, I didn't need to drink that in your ear. Okay, let's get to it. So again, we talked about business, we talked about systems, we talked about psychology. Now let's get to the 4 core functions of business. So the 4 core functions of business are, again, these are true for every single business. Again, we're taking that top-down approach to your business. The 4 core functions are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey through your company happens in that order. first through the lead generation, then the sales, then the operations, then the accounting. And there's just no way of getting around that. So when you're starting to think about this, okay, well, how does my lead generation really start the conversations? This is where you're starting to think like, okay, well, this is where we're setting ourselves up to scale. So the 4 core functions, they do start with that lead generation piece where you're targeting that client avatar that we identified way back in the beginning. If you have not gotten really clear, you're like, well, anybody who wants indoor plumbing, well, that's a lot of people. But if you're saying, well, anybody who really wants to spend high dollar on a $500 toilet, you go, oh, wow, that's a pretty expensive toilet. Yeah. And if there's a market for that, then that's where you're really targeting your client avatar. But you've got to get really specific around that, because when I'm really specific, I know exactly who I want to work with. It is much easier for me to direct my marketing towards. And I'm also attracting people the most money who bring the least amount of drama. I don't know about y'all, but I cannot stand drama in my life at this point in my this point in my life where I'm at. I'm 53 years old. My bride and I have a 3-year-old daughter. Trust and know we're going to have plenty of drama. Okay. Right. She's a great kid, but just, she tends to be a little on the dramatic side, right? Hello, Calvin. Nice to see you. Let me know where you're from and what line of work that you're in. So joining us from YouTube. All right. So the 4 core functions of business, again, the reason why, again, I'm going to put these up, the 15 reasons why people buy, and this is going to help you. I'm going to take this down so you can take a screenshot of this, but this is going to be really important for you to think about this in terms of how you can help attract the people that you most want to work with. In fact, I went through this exact list this morning because I'm getting ready to launch an ad campaign, and I got thinking about the reasons why people buy. And this is going to attract people in my marketing. So I want you to think about this. I want you to write all these reasons down. How people, they buy because they want to make money, they want to save money, they want to save time, avoid effort, escape pain. Right? Could be physical pain, emotional pain, sometimes spiritual pain. They want more comfort. They want better health. They want again, better health could be less stress. They want to feel more love. They want to gain praise, increase their status with their current tribe. People will buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for truth. They will buy for growth, and that could be personal growth. That could be it could be growth in their knowledge, growth in their wellness. People will buy for novelty. Just because something is new, they'll buy to feel more in control or to get more certainty, and they will also buy for more contribution. So here's your homework. What I want you to do is that I want you to take this list, and I want you to think of all the ways, directly or indirectly, how you help someone make more money, directly or indirectly. And I want you to come up with 10 different ways, directly or indirectly, how you in your product or service help people make more money. Okay? I want you to come up with 10 different ways how you help people save money, directly or indirectly. And you're like, well, I don't directly help. Well, how do you help them indirectly? Right? Maybe because you indirectly save people time, you allow them to have better health because now they can get to the gym. Make sense? The reason why I want you to do this is because let's say that you come up with 10 reasons under all of these reasons why people are going to want to buy your product or service directly or indirectly, you now have 150 different reasons why people might want to do business with you. So you have all these things thought of in advance, and some of them are going to be wonky, some of them are going to be weird, fine. But in there somewhere, you're going to come up with a couple of real nuggets why people are going to want to do business with you. And I'm telling you, when you get really clear, you can't do this unless you're really clear on your product or service. You can't do this if you're not clear on your core values, and you absolutely cannot do this if you're not clear on your client avatar. But once you are clear, do this exercise in terms of how you help people directly or indirectly, why they would want to buy from you. All right? Really, really helpful. Let's see. Calvin is saying, I'm online business, e-commerce, and shipping. Very good, Calvin. And let's see. Oh, you're saying, sorry, I missed this one. You're from Tanzania. But I work here in the UAE, in Dubai. Very good. Excellent. You're saying, okay, taking notes. Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you're here. So when you're looking at your 4 core functions of business, I just want to make this one point here. Everything has to support your lead generation function. Everything has to support this function. And the reason is this, because you can have the best, most efficient business. You can be an absolute paragon of virtue. Your sales technique is so dialed in that you could sell voting booths to Castro and you could sell ice to Eskimos and you could still starve. It doesn't matter the quality of your product or service if no one knows about it. So you can never, ever, ever take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. And I mean, if you're looking to grow, and especially if you're looking to scale, you cannot take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. This is going to be something you're going to be doing forever. If you are a sole person doing your lead generation activities, I would argue that 60 to 70% of your activities need to be around lead generation activities. And again, I would say 60 to 70% of the total organization's activities need to be around lead generation activities. Because I'm just saying, like, well, what if we're putting together websites or whatever it is, we're building websites, that's fine. But what happens is if you're not keeping up with that 60 to 70%, you're not going to be growing. You're just not. And it's like, well, I've got more work than I can get to. Then raise your prices. Raise your prices. Okay. So I'm just saying, like, this is where you have to start to think about this. From your lead generation activities, that 60 to 70% of those actions and activities need to be around lead generation. So let's wrap up the rest of the 4 core functions. The sales conversation, we talked about lead gen. That's one of the 4 core functions of business. Now let's talk about sales. Sales continues the conversation that started by lead generation. And it understands that effective selling is about finding solutions, not holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. That's not selling. That's being a bully. So you have to understand the selling conversation is, again, this would be pointless though if there's no leads. So make sure that you're putting your foot on the gas when it comes to lead generation. The accounting function, generally, if you're going to get stuck, you're going to get stuck in the operations. And it usually is like you get stuck being a roofer, you get stuck building websites, you get stuck doing the bookkeeping or accounting or whatever the thing is, whatever the operational function of the business. For most business owners, this is where they tend to get stuck. So I just want you to understand, this is where you want to avoid, where you might have to hire people to do the operational function of your business. And generally in the accounting function, if you're going to ignore something, if the operation's where you're going to get stuck, if you're going to ignore something, it's almost always the accounting. And it usually goes something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. Yep, I have an accounting degree, and I have said those very words. Okay, so I just want you to think about this, that when you're starting to think about this, hold on one second. I've got a error here from LinkedIn. Okay, all good. So all I'm saying is that if you start to think about this, okay, are all of these functions here, are all those functions, these 4 functions, are they the same skill set? No, they're not the same skill set. They're not even close to the same skill set. I mean, I would make an argument that they're similar in some ways, but this is why solopreneurs struggle, because they're trying to do all 4 of these things and they don't have the time and they get constrained. So when you're hiring people, guess what they need to be in alignment with? They need to be in alignment with your core values. So you're bringing people into your organization, both from a client perspective, but also from an employee or vendor perspective, that they're aligned with your core values. I know it keeps showing up like a damn rash, right? But you got to have these core values well defined. It helps you interview better. It helps you hire better. It helps you coach and counsel better. Termination is easier. It sets the tone for meetings. Again, defines company culture, and it unbelievably raises personal commitment. Okay. So again, you're not the only one making personal decisions. You're not the only one making decisions in your business. And again, you're not the only role model. So you have to take that time to define your core values. We're almost done here. So just hang in there for just a few more minutes, guys. You guys have been fantastic. This is going to be the difference between growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. When you're growing by addition, you're just growing by one person at a time. And this is when you have to start thinking about, when you're bringing other leaders, when you're bringing other people into your organization, that's when you're growing by multiplication, especially when you're bringing high caliber people who are in alignment with your core values. That's a difference between growing by multiplication versus just growing by addition, by growing by one client at a time. All right. So if you do want to grow, it's important that you have the right systems in place. It's also important that you have great leadership, and you need to be exhibiting that great leadership with trust and vision and communication and all three of those things. You need to have lead generation activities to be 60 to 70% of your organization's activities. The total activities need to be 60 to 70% of your organization's activities, actions and activities. And finally, you need to hire and develop and bring in great leaders. Okay? And that's where you're going to be growing by multiplication. So that is all I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to put up a couple of resources here. If you've got any questions, go ahead and type them out. Happy to stick around for a few minutes. But in the beginning, I started this where you're seeking knowledge to understand versus seeking knowledge to take action. You know, I want to know, what do you plan on taking action on? I'd like to hear that in the comments. And as you guys are typing these out, I am going to invite you to the school community right now. It is free. That will be changing very soon. And I'm just letting you know now, it's going to be priced at $119 per month. You are welcome to join it for now. And I'm just saying, like, it is like imminent that I'm going to be changing this. So I'm just letting you know, you're welcome to join. And for everybody who's in, they will stay there for a while as long as you're engaging and not being someone who I don't want in the community. But let me go ahead and put that in the comment section. And there you guys go. All right. So that is everything that I have. I don't see any questions popping up. So I'm just going to go ahead and do these last couple of slides. Again, this is the school community, school.com/strategic boardroom. And again, that is that's the class there. All right, everybody. So I don't see any questions out there. All right, put your tray tables and seats in the upright and locked position. We are going to land this plane. Thank you so very much for hanging out today. You guys have been a very engaging and very fun group. Thanks so very much, and I'll see you guys in the boardroom. Take good care.